This video was made under the fair use laws and is made to be a non-profit educational video. Attempts to remove this from the internet will be met with a stiff legal challenge. You have been warned. Now, I'm not here to say start a war, but I'm here as a father, a friend, and as a man that will stand up for freedom and stop at nothing to inform everyone of the tyranny being inflicted against the innocent people. If you think you can start pushing laws that forcibly injure and destroy millions of families' lives, you will feel the force of freedom like you have never felt before. Dear Senator Elizabeth Steiner Hayward, I question your ability to perform your job and stand opposed to your bill SB 442 subsection 3. You have no right to mandate that all children should be forced vaccinated, and I question your motives directly linked to your position as a physician and as a senator. With these laws and bills you are proposing, they are directly linked to funding, campaigning, and backroom bribes that are acts of tyranny against the people. They are immoral and they are unjust. I say no to Bill SB 442-3, and I stand opposed to anyone who wishes to force vaccinate children and force vaccinate already injured children that have been vaccinated.
District 17 and a family physician. I want to start by just offering a summary of the -3 amendments, which is what I'm hoping that we will consider rather than the original text of Senate Bill 442. To be clear, the -3 amendments would delete Section 1 sub C of ORS 433.267, and as a result would take away all non-medical exemptions for immunizations. We would only allow either full immunization status for children attending school in Oregon or attending daycare, or a medical exemption from a licensed provider. Non-medical received a certain amount of attention about this bill and a certain amount of responses in social media, one of which I'd like to address directly, which is my relationship with the pharmaceutical industry. There are people who are alleging that I am promoting this bill because I've been paid money by pharmaceutical companies and vaccine manufacturers. I've worked for Oregon Health and Science University for over 15 years. In our practices, we do not allow drug representatives in our clinics. We do not accept drug samples. We do not accept any gifts from drug manufacturers. Further, I have never accepted an honorarium from a drug company. Furthermore, in 2005, I worked with the Oregon Academy of Family Physicians to make the OAFP pharmaceutical free. We do not accept even unrestricted educational grants. And personally, as a legislator, when I became a legislator a little over 3 years ago, I made the decision, which I've held to this day and will continue to hold, that I do not accept political campaign contributions from pharmaceutical manufacturers. I will continue to hold by this. I think it is an inherent conflict of interest for me as a physician to accept anything from the pharmaceutical industry. So I just want to be clear about that, Madam Chair and members of the committee.
While researching this issue, I discovered that the American Medical Association's Code of Ethics specifically recognizes that physicians may claim a religious or philosophical reason not to be immunized. AMA Code of Ethics Opinion number 9.133. If doctors hold the belief that it's ethical to claim a religious or philosophical exemption to vaccines, under what claim of right does the state have the capability of outlawing ethical behavior by its citizens? Interestingly enough, in an article that was published in the American Academy of Family Physicians, the sponsor of this bill is quoted as disregarding her treating doctor's advice because, in the paraphrase, I did the research and disagreed with her recommendation. She chose to breastfeed her child despite the medication that she was taking for her condition and despite the risk to her child from that medication.
I'm sorry, Madam Chair. I have to, sir. Yes, please.
I'm not
No, sir. Please allow me to respond.
Sure.
Thank you. I appreciate that. My doctor at that time was responding, in fact, to drug company paranoia because they'd never tested it in pregnant and breastfeeding women. I called the national expert on drugs and lactation from the University of Texas and asked him personally to clarify that interferons did not transfer from breast milk from the mother's tissue into breast milk before I made that decision for my child. And I also was well aware that breastfeeding is the best thing you can do to protect children from autoimmune diseases. So I would be very grateful if you did not take my decision, my personal decision about my medical care out of context. Thank you.
All right, please. Remember,
No, mine was science-based.
we do not, all right. I will have to ask people to leave if we don't have decorum. We do not impugn others, all right?
My statement was not intended in any manner of impugning or maligning the sponsor of this bill, only pointing out that her right to exercise her informed consent and make a different decision than her treating doctor is the same right that we as citizens are seeking for ourselves.
Oregonians, it's Dr. Paul. I'm about to go in and testify to the Oregon Senate Health Committee on Senate Bill 442, Amendment 3, which will remove your rights to get a philosophical or a religious exemption on vaccines. We are going to be, folks, mandated to do whatever the state wants, and of course it's going to be all vaccines for all kids at all times, and you'll only be able to get a medical exemption from certain pre-selected medical providers. I'm Dr. Paul Thomas, pediatrician board certified for Portland, Oregon. I represent 11,000 patients and about 500 new babies each month who come to my practice wanting informed consent about vaccines. It turns out, as a physician, it is my responsibility to give the risks, the benefits, and the alternatives of any medical procedure. We are not going to be allowed to do this if this bill passes the way it's written. And that's a tragedy, because then you might as well eliminate us, the physicians. We are of no value. I'd like you to imagine something. You're about to go into the hospital to have a baby. Maybe it's your daughter's child, so it's your baby or your grandbaby. You sign in to give permission for routine care. That baby's delivered, and within minutes, they get the hepatitis B vaccine and the vitamin K and the eye ointment. Did you know that hepatitis B vaccine contains 250 micrograms of aluminum? That is 10 to 15 times the maximum allowable dose for an infant. You've got the studies in your packet that show brain damage, autism association, and the challenge to the immune system. What makes it worse is the only people that need that vaccine are moms who are positive for Hep B. In Oregon and in this country, that's less than 1%. So we're going to poison the other 99%, and it's going to be mandated by this law so that we cover that 1%. And our OBGYNs are doing a masterful job. We know who needs the vaccine and who doesn't. What makes this tragic is we now have data, it's in your package, that shows that this policy is not giving lasting immunity. So 15 to 20-year-olds do not have protection anymore when they become sexually active or have IV drug use. We need to change that policy. The JAMA article in February of 2013 in your packet, in Norway, 85,000 pregnancies followed for 6 years. They looked at the autism rate and folate intake. It was 1 in 1,000. The rate here in the United States at the same time was 1 in 100. I was curious, what's the difference? Guess what? They don't give the hepatitis B to newborns who don't need it. Huge difference. In my practice, I now have 1,000 kids who are at least 3 years old, no new autism. At the rate of 1 in 50 that my peers are experiencing, I should have had 20 cases. 4 million births a year in the United States. At a rate of 50, 1 in 50, we have 80,000 cases of autism a year, and it could be reduced by 76,000 by a couple simple measures. Now you've heard that, oh, it's the MMR is causing the autism and all of that. It's true. The pediatrics article that was quoted in 2004 as showing no link is the very study that had the link. The data was excluded, 300% increase in African American boys. So the studies are not final. The AAP, my own academy, and the CDC are saying science finished. No, that's not how science works. Science is a process, and the process is unfolding. We need the studies. Look at the group who haven't been vaccinated, the group who are selectively vaccinated, and those who are fully vaccinated, and see what happens. I have a cohort of selectively vaccinated. They all get their DTaP. We're not putting any of these immunocompromised people at risk for pertussis. They're all getting the MMR eventually. Herd immunity is there. We don't need this bill the way it's written. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming. I'm going to jump to Mary Aliana.
Well, I gave it my best shot, folks. I would encourage you to speak out because, you know, our senators sometimes do listen. Many of us spoke today in front of the Senate committee, both pro and anti this bill. We just hope that the senators will really realize the gravity of this situation and not take away individual rights. It would be a huge step in the wrong direction. Please do contact your senators and speak out if you have an opportunity to do so. This is just the beginning of this fight. I imagine it's going on for months and years as the powers that want to spread vaccine profits throughout the land must be held in check by science. And I'm about science. Look at the information. Don't just give sound bites like you hear on the news and accept that as gospel. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'm Dr. Paul.
Please vote no on Bill SB 442, subsection 3. Stay informed. If this bill passes, it won't be long before every state will force vaccinate innocent children. And not only that, but they're going to force vaccinate children that have already been injured from receiving vaccination shots, and double and triple up on the dosage. This is tyranny at its worst. Let's stay together and let's fight for freedom.